From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Ken Knapsack.
I'm Jen Landa.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
We're here to talk about Star Wars news, breaking news from a long time ago, and we're going to swing through some warm and fun stories today, and we'll catch up a little bit with yesterday's live stream. We'll talk about enjoying the Andor trailer, diving into the Andor trailer, all that stuff. But before we get to all that, as always, we want to remind you the very important stuff that this podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We love recommending books for you to try on us, and we're recommending Star Wars: The Living Force by Jonathan Jackson Miller. Yes, there's the headlines of Ki-Adi-Mundi and his ice-flavored ice, which is one of my favorite moments in Star Wars literature. But there's also some wonderful stuff there with Jedis you love, know, and maybe even question leading up to the Phantom Menace. Download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audio book from Audible A to Ask A. Joseph, we got a lot of things moving and, dare I say, grooving over on Patreon.
Yes, they're moving, but we could use your help grooving. On Patreon in particular, we are building to 430 paid patrons. When we reach that goal, we're going to release an old episode, a classic episode of Star Wars Ranked, and we're going to add visuals to what used to be just a boring old audio podcast will suddenly come alive with excitement if we get to 430 paid patrons. I was laughing because Jennifer made a beautiful rainbow hand gesture, which says excitement to anyone, I think, born in the 70s and 80s and perhaps 90s. Everybody loves rainbows. Why am I limiting this? Anyway, you can also follow us on Blue Sky. We're continuing to grow there. It is our main and maybe at some point only social media. So check us out on Blue Sky. Promotions, Ken?
Yeah, absolutely. This coming Friday, which will be February 28th, according to the calendar that's moving too fast, at 2 p.m. Pacific, our normal live stream time for our monthly live stream show. We'll be doing that, and we're going to be taking a look at our favorite hopeful moments in Star Wars. Not necessarily a Star Wars Ranked episode, but just discussing those favorite moments of hope in the franchise. But this is a charity stream. We are going to be promoting two charities, St. Baldrick's at stbaldricks.org and their work with children's cancer research, and Trans Lifeline is going to be in the spotlight, as well as we sit in front of all of you and talk Star Wars, but also try to put something good out into the world during these, dare I say, quote unquote, unprecedented and troubling times. But we're going to have some fun and hopefully do some good with it there. So that's Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live right here on the YouTube channel.
Yeah. So for clarity, the charity aspect will be any super chats that you give, we will split between St. Baldrick's and Trans Lifeline. And I love doing those live streams because it's fun for me to think about what are my most hopeful moments. But then what's always really electrifying about it is hearing all of the different perspectives of everybody in the chat of what their favorite hopeful moments are.
Indeed. And join us there Friday here on the YouTube channel. We had a lot of fun yesterday going live, discussing normally our questions live episode, but that turned into an Andor trailer to a season 2 teaser trailer discussion. A lot of fun. We'll just to close, we're actually recording this before that.
So who knows what we said? This is a fun time travel moment where who knows what could happen on our live stream. We don't, but it's you do if you're listening because you've already got a chance to see.
Yeah. Sometimes I like a little alternate reality, just lying, pretending like this. No, we're going live in a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see. Life Adventures, catching up on things we did last week. Anything that was Star Wars related. Jen, you got to start because I have a big question. Did you try one of those salads from the salad dispenser machine?
God. No, I did not. We had to rush off. We had family in town, and we went to downtown LA. We took them to the Grand Central Market. We went to the Broad, and when we went for a bathroom break, we saw this vending machine that I posted on my Instagram story that had salads in a little jar, and you could buy them. They were like $6. They even had it was incredible. I was like, if I worked in an office in downtown, I would go get myself a salad from the vending machine.
Yeah.
I did not.
An old school automat.
An automat?
Yeah. Do you know about automats?
No.
Anyway, we'll talk about it on another podcast. But they used to be I don't think they're around anymore at all. There's basically just like a deli, but everything was it was a huge vending machine as a store.
What?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
No, I didn't know
yeah.
that. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
please Google, and I hope you become obsessed and start doing videos about automats because it's
All right.
a
I love
fun rabbit hole.
sandwiches. Yeah. I mean, the only Star Warsy thing, I can't even think about it, but the thing on my mind was the Broad. The actual design of the structure is so
Mm.
sci-fi, futuristic. It felt like something out of Andor, let's say. It just, the building is incredible. And even inside, it's just like the walls, the texture. It's fantastic. And it's free. I didn't know that. It's some of the most incredible art in there. And we went in that mirror room. Just fantastic. So,
Well,
Where is it?
it is downtown LA by Grand Central Market. I don't know the exact streets, or like
That's
Cal
fine.
Plaza. Do you know where Cal Plaza is in downtown
Yes,
LA?
yes.
Yeah. It's like right across the street from there.
What are the GPS coordinates? I can't get there without it.
Joseph, you would love it. You would love it.
I
You have to go.
I want to check that out. Thank you.
and Sarah should go. Okay.
I'm just gonna go back to Grand Central Market and try the salads. Art is great, but salad in a can to go is art in its own way. I saw your Instagram story, and I was actually stopping to check the prices. I like stopped your feed, and be like, oh, that's a pretty fair price. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
something.
$6?
Yeah. For a salad in a cup.
Yeah, Grand Central Market's a fun place. I've been there a couple of years. It's kind of Star Warsy. It's like you've landed on a planet. You're walking down the central lane of that planet to go meet a contact, and there's people selling wares and food. I love it. I love it there. My life adventure said, I didn't get out of bed most days on time. It's been a bad week for me, so I'm just trying to find hope in my own life. And then you look at the world, and that just kind of doesn't help at all. But I have been having a lot of, hard to say the word fun, but having a lot of fun reading the Rated Empire Mask of Fear book by Alexander Freed that just continues to be one of those like, okay, something that maybe we need to do. Okay. Like it's just really spot on in a frightening way, but also a wonderful way. And it's I've been a fan of, we've all kind of enjoyed Alexander Freed's writing since he showed up on the Star Wars scene years ago. The Rogue One novelization comes to mind too, is one of my favorites, but like this is some of his best writing, and one of the reasons is it just moves. And the Alphabet Squadron for me was wonderful, but it was dense. And there'd be some of those times where you sit down like, I'm going to read a chapter, and you kind of, this chapter is 72 pages long. Okay. It moves, it grooves, all those kind of things, and I've just had a lot of fun. So I can sit down and read in shorter chunks to fit with my life, and it's been fun to reconnect with a Star Wars book because it's been a while for me. Not a comment on any book in the past. I just haven't been focusing on Star Wars books, and to actually go, I want to make time for that today. It's been fun for me as a Star Wars fan to reconnect to that. So good stuff. Good stuff.
Nice.
You, sir?
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to starting that book. I didn't have a chance. Sarah's aunt and uncle were having a vacation of their own in the Coachella Valley and invited us to come join them for a couple days outside of, they said Palm Springs, but they were 40 minutes outside of Palm Springs. So it was mostly lovely sitting around, and I got to read some non-Star Wars book. Anyway, the sort of the Star Wars adventure of that was really fun to kind of go on this wave with Sarah's aunt and uncle of like, we'd be talking about different things of music and travel, and then the reality of the world would creep in, and we'd get upset a little bit, and then stop talking about it, and then maybe talk about it again and get a little more hopeful about different aspects of people pushing back on the fascism. And the way Star Wars found my way into that was Hasbro, who of course makes the Star Wars action figures, put out a weird business speak cryptic kind of announcement of big changes of we're going to reorient to maximize blah, blah, blah. And talking about digital being, important, and recognizing that adult legacy customers are our core audience, but still being friendly to the spirit of play. Like all this sort of like, what are you canceling the vintage line or not? What just spit it out, Hasbro. But if there was a thing at the bottom that was, and of course, toys are made in China and tariffs. So also, who knows? It kind of just ended with and also, who knows? Because
Wow.
we don't know how much an Anakin costs right now.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Mm.
And I saw this in one of the Facebook groups I'm in, and it was, and people were upset, obviously. And I had a nice conversation with Sarah's aunt and uncle, my aunt and uncle by marriage, about this. First, I had to explain to them that adults still collect Star Wars action figures. I was like, really? Wow,
Fascinating.
no idea.
Fascinating.
But we had a good conversation about, I think, one of the hopeful things of where our government is right now, or where our democracy is the more people who are aware and can't say that's something that's happening far away. They can't Uncle Owen it and say it's all so far away from here. It's not my problem, when it's going to come for every aspect of your life. And not to paint with a broad brush, but I know from comments in some of the action figure discussion groups, there are some people there who do not want any politics in Star Wars, and they want it to be a fun hobby entirely isolated from the world. And hey, it's coming for everything, which is hopeful to me, because the more people who are aware, the more people who will, I think, engage.
I agree, and I was going to say, particularly in the Facebook groups on action figure forums and groups, there's sometimes a lean that's present. So
There can be,
yeah,
not everybody, but
Yeah.
you'll be reading along like strong opinions about this Admiral Akbar, and then whoa, you get 3 opinions in a row that are
yeah,
okay,
yeah. And I don't say it with glee or joy. Someone who could lose their medical, it's going to be an interesting phone call back home where I go, hey, look what happened to me. That thing you thought doesn't happen. So I think that's a great point. But also, is the vintage line safe, Joseph? Where is it? Is the vintage line safe?
I think so.
Okay.
It was so, like, this was such a non-announcement. It was basically like, hey, we might change everything, or we might not.
Yeah.
Tune in later. So, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Well, one thing we do know is that we have some Star Wars news to discuss. One of those slow weeks until the trailer dropped yesterday, which is always fun. But hey, we got the curse kind of broken. The ForceCenter curse. Because we go live on Mondays, we're able to pivot, discuss. So check out that episode if you missed us yesterday, breaking down and discussing the Andor teaser trailer for season 2. We have that up there for you. But right now, we're going to go to a big, important member of the Star Wars family, Warwick Davis. He received an honorary BAFTA Fellowship Award. Of course, the BAFTA's the British Academy Film Award. I don't know, even fair to say the British Oscars. That just it's the BAFTAs. It's the BAFTAs. It's a big deal. He was honored with the award, like I said, and he delivered a warm, charming, and emotional speech that included a tribute to his late wife Samantha, of course, passed away last year. So I thought this was a great opportunity for us to honor one of our favorites in Star Wars and Willow, for my Willow fans out there, Warwick Davis. And Jen, what does the name Warwick Davis make you think of as a Star Wars fan? Where does your heart go upon hearing even that name?
Even just the name, I just get this feeling of like whimsy and magic. And it's obviously related to the characters that
Sure.
Warwick Davis has portrayed. But there's just like, he just seems to be enjoying himself in everything he does. Every interview, he's always just like happy, and it like lifts me up in my darkest times just to see just, him chatting about things, whatever it may be. But like Carrie Fisher and Peter Mayhew, and obviously, Mark Hamill going on, they're woven into the fabric that is Star Wars. And I just can't think of Star Wars without Warwick Davis. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. An ambassador and longtime ambassador for the franchise that he grew up loving. So yeah, absolutely there. Joseph, that name, what does it mean to you? What pops up into your heart?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ambassador is definitely up there. In a way, I think it's like a complete Star Wars package, which is a weird thing to say. But obviously, he's an actor who has contributed to the franchise. Multiple characters. I think Wicket is a huge deal. So obviously just, hey, he's an actor who is deeply associated with Star Wars, but also he is a great ambassador of Star Wars and just an unabashed fan. It's such a charming story that he fell into it as an actual child or found his way into it. And, the documentary clips of him asking George for action figures and asking George, like, do I get a spear as Wicket, just absolutely charming all the way through to sort of the kind of ambassador roles of like hosting at Star Wars Celebration. And I think like all those names that you listed, Jennifer, I think he's kind of unique in that there's never been any sort of a bump. There's never been any, I'm conflicted about my relationship with Star Wars. In this acceptance speech, I think his first line was something like, this is a great honor. And I've been in Star Wars. And like that connection to him being a kid playing Wicket and going, can I get some free action figures, George? All the way up to him as an adult, as a father, having this award, to being like, can you bleep and believe it? I was in Star Wars. That, decades of unadulterated fandom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That I can't help but smile. Hey, so I was in your movie. Do I get figures? Because that would absolutely be what I would ask. Yeah, and it's he's someone we all kind of grew up with, talking about our generation, and he's part of the lore. His arrival into Star Wars is baked into the making of that movie's story. Great clips were played in the tribute to him before he received this award of George, and slightly in that George way, not changing the story, but just like, oh yeah, I decided to move him in, as opposed to Jack Purvis being sick and not showing up the day, all those kind of things we've heard. I love that George was like, yeah, no, it was him. He was so good. I decided he absolutely needed to be Wicket. And then have that carry on. I loved seeing, Ron Howard be the first to kind of speak in a clip, and how they, built Willow around him, and just speaking about his joy for everything he does. And it's just been fun to have him in Star Wars. Always blessed to have him part of the Star Wars story, I think. Mm-hmm. Talking about Wicket, Jen, he is without a doubt a favorite around these parts. We love ourselves a good Ewok story there, but he was 11? What do you value from his performance that he brought to Wicket as an 11-year-old to begin his career and beyond?
It's quite incredible that as a kid he was able to make such a specific performance, which is why I think that the character is so successful out of all the Ewoks. It's just the fact that he chose, as he's talked about, using more dog-like movements. It makes, when you're watching it, my kids are watching it, it feels familiar, and yet not pet-like, right? Because there's a clear distinction. Wicket very much is an equal with Leia. It's not like he's like, a pet to be cuddled, although he would be wonderful to cuddle. It's just like there's a level of respect and kind of like, I don't know, something that he brings to it that just makes it on another level, to make it like, no, this is his own species that commands respect.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And a determination to fight the good fight, even if he's going to swing that rock into his own head, which was one of my favorite moments in 1983, and it still ranks pretty high. It still ranks pretty high. Joseph, what do you value as him as Wicket?
Yeah, I think he just brought such a great physicality, the dog-like motions, as Jim was saying. But I think there's a great combination of his physical performance with all of the voice that's given to him. But I think in the physicality, he manages to make Wicket curious, skittish, aggressive, compassionate, still young and incompetent, like with the rock around his head. And I think it's all those elements in the physicality that are like, yes, those are familiar because those are like base sentient being behaviors and modes, but all of the different levels of complexity within that physicality this is clearly a sentient, curious creature trying to navigate the world and reacting to things and making decisions based on, how they respond to him. It's just in his physicality, it's a full conversation with Leia.
Yeah, that first scene, even just thinking about it as we talk, but just looking at it in the grand scheme of things, just does such a good job of, setting the tone for what the Empire's doing there. You get the visuals. He's skittish and afraid, like you said. But then, coming around pretty quickly to the fight once he realizes, as you say, Jed, that Leia is, looking at him on an equal playing field. Treats involved, but I do a lot of things for treats as well. So I'm motivated by snacks as well. So, but I love everything about that sequence. It mesmerized me as a kid, outside of even just the wicked of it all, but just the biker scouts that I've talked about years for loving, but just the whole sequence and Leia in distress, but fighting her way out of it, and just a fist pumping moment when he comes through under that log to help and join the fight, and then leading her in the right direction, even at the end of the sequence. No, we're going this way. I love everything about it. It set the tone for the Ewoks. He's the first Ewok on screen, right? Right? Us we see. Are they trapped before? No. Are they trapped before? I can't remember. I'm going to watch. You know what? I'm going to have to watch Return of the Jedi this weekend just to figure it out. But he's the first one we spend time with and get to know, and sets the tone. And to put that on the shoulders of an 11-year-old kid, I think is one of the great decisions by George and his team to say, this is okay. We got faith in this kid.
In his youth and sense of play might have really helped, because you take an adult actor and say, okay, first you're afraid. Now you kind of want to treat. Now you're startled by a hat. Now you sense something and go in an aggressive mode and roll and hide. And also, you can't use any words. No swearing. It would take an adult a while to do all of those things as convincingly as Warwick Davis does.
Instinct, right? Right, Jen? Instinct. The instincts of an Ewok.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Look, he is a staple in Star Wars, which is something I just absolutely enjoy and love. And I'm trying to remember the point in time where, because he doesn't appear in Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith, if my memory serves, and he had gone off to join other franchises and stuff during that time. But by the time the new era rolls around, he becomes this staple that to me was not ever a cameo, we've got to make sure I got a better feeling about this to get in the film. It was just like, no, this is a member of our family, but he's a versatile performer. They even talk about in this tribute, he could be himself. He could be a robot, a droid. He could be a creature. He could be anything. And so for him to kind of be a staple in Star Wars, I think is one of my favorite things of the new modern era of them plugging him back in an important way. And then, him showing up in Solo and taking the mask off got an applause break a few times early on when I was watching the film with an audience there. And I wanted to ask Jen, outside of Wicket, what are some of your favorite Warwick Davis Star Wars characters? Unless you want to talk about Willow as well.
Oh, I misread that. I was thinking outside of Wicket, what is my favorite Warwick Davis character? And I just have to say Willow. And it makes me so sad that obviously the original Willow, fantastic, but I just love the series, and I love what he brought, and the fact that he got to act with his daughter Annabelle, who is wonderful as an actor, and he just brought so much heart and depth to that role, and seeing the character filled with so much self-doubt and like pushing through, it was great. And I was trying to think, is it available? Like we can't watch it on streaming, and it's not Blu-ray or anything, right?
There are ways.
Oh, that's
but
tragedy.
it's mind-bogglingly frustrating and causes some anger, at Uncle Bob or whoever. I don't care. It's a wonderful series that wasn't necessarily for everyone right away. I've spoken often, and not to break off into a Willow series discussion, but I didn't immediately connect with it until I realized it was part of the point, and there's a great character that kind of represents that as this wonderful moment of, oh, I'm not the main character here. And it's great. And I immediately connected with like that moment, but also the series up to that, and was like, I can't wait to rewatch it. And it's gone. And for even like, I think Warwick posted not too long ago, like, I didn't even get to see this. Like, can't even I don't have a copy, right? Like that's frustrating because it is a spectacular performance. It is a character coming back and kind of being in a different vibe and kind of a different part of his life and story, and it's some great acting from Warwick, who has been a great actor from the beginning, as we've been discussing. Especially love his comedy stuff that he's done on some of the BBC stuff, but it's an absolute tragedy that we can't watch that performance again.
Yeah.
Or if you're me, at all,
right?
Because I didn't. It was one I really wanted to watch with my wife. Neither of us ever seen the film Willow, so we're like, let's make some time to watch the film and then watch the series. And I hope you enjoy that tax write-off corporate monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. But but back to the joy of Warwick.
But he was great. He was wonderful.
He's just he's so good in it. He's so good.
He's so good. And creating this arc for this character over how many years, right? Like it's amazing what he did. Gosh dang it. Come on.
Yeah. But Jen, if you want, I'll circle back to you if you have a favorite Star Wars character. Joseph, any Star Wars characters come to mind that are your favorites of his?
Yeah, I think there's many of them are charming, but I think the character of Weasel, I think partially because we actually do just get some face time with him as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
I think I also like that George gave him multiple roles in The Phantom Menace, including one that shared his face. And I remember that being amidst all of the grumpy Gen Xers who are like, wow, Warwick Davis's face, cool. And I think that is a great moment. He's got one of the best pod race reactions in the film.
He does.
And I love the choice to have his character, who looked like he was maybe having a hard time on Tatooine, gambling problem, and then turns his life around and becomes a part of something more important in Solo. And the Weasel character, I think, is one that, there isn't in Solo. There's not as much comedy to it. He comes across as a menacing bounty hunter when he puts the tracking device on the Falcon. And then the great hero shot from below of him when it's all packed up. So that's my favorite. And also, I want to give a shout out to voicing Rook.
Yes.
Because I think that's that's entirely an acting performance. And I would love to see more of those kinds of performances from Warwick.
I'm glad you mentioned Rook, because that was a character I would have. I did love Rook a lot back in the day, and I know I've said some things on our channel of the original Heir to the Empire series of books doesn't really hold up for me. That always did, and Rook was always one of my favorite characters. And so cool, he's back, and then have Warwick play it. It just, again, it isn't just hey, you want to throw a bone to the old Star Wars act? No, they're like, hey, you know who we need? We need this. This would be great for Warwick, and he comes in and delivers. And I love that it's him. I'm with you on the Weasel thing. There's a lot there. Again, same thing. It isn't just let's get him in there and Ron Howard, throwing him a bone. My old Willow star, no, let's do it, and let's make it that character. Let's go back to Phantom. And you're so right, Joseph, to point out that even in the theater in 1999, amongst all the Gen X angst going on in those theaters, his face brought joy. It was one of those great moments that you could say, but at least, and maybe that be an anchor for you to grow some more love for Phantom Menace. I love that. And on that note, I could talk about Weasel too, but I do retroactively love Wald a whole lot more than I did back in the day. Because again, once you find out it's him, and he's got some, let's go play ball. That whole sequence is what it is. But Wald celebrating and doing a weird dance is one of those Star Wars moments that at the time I was like, I don't know about that. Now I'm like, I'll do that in front of a donut shop when I get a good donut. I love everything about it, and I owe that joy to Warwick. Anytime he's there, he brings such life to characters. Such life to characters, indeed. But as we look to go to our next story here, close final thoughts on the ongoing legacy of Warwick Davis, Jen. He's only 55. We got a lot of Star Wars to come. Even if he never appears in another Star Wars film, his legacy is far and wide and felt throughout the fandom. But your final thoughts on Warwick Davis getting this award?
I'm so glad he's only 55. That's wonderful to hear. Because I think that we're going to get a lot more from him. I think he could have more iconic characters in other films and not necessarily Star Wars. And I was thinking about it. I was like, for an actor, for a person who is a little person, being in the entertainment industry, he really broke so many stereotypes because yes, little people have often been seen as like, comedic, right? The butt of the joke. And he really showed like he is an actor. He deserves to be taken seriously as an actor. And sometimes, yes, his height does play a role in the types of characters that he does. But at the end of the day, he is shown his versatility as a performer. And I'm so glad that people recognize his talent. It's just so important.
Absolutely. And part of that legacy, I love that they highlighted the work he's done in the organizations he's companies he's built to help. First, was it 5 foot and under, and then they did 7 feet and taller. Like, hey, both sides of the coin, man. I gotta use my position and status that I've built up working hard in the industry. As he made that wonderful joke about it's all mine. I did it. I love that. I love that that's an ongoing thing, that he is not just giving back, he's establishing a foundation for all these other performers to build their careers on. So great stuff. Joseph, you.
Yeah, I hadn't known about his company, so I thought that was just fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, like all around, actor, fan, business person, wise, kind business person. I really hope he gets more prominent roles, character actor roles, but also leading roles in genre or not, because he is a fantastic actor. And I think as a gentleman of 55, he's got the gray in the hair and he's got a good sense of gravitas. And I think it would be really wonderful to see him play some different kinds of roles. I didn't get to see his performance in the Willow television show before it was yanked out of existence. So I would love to see him in genre or not, with some meteor roles. But for Star Wars, I think I'm in support of hashtag Weasel Watch. I think I would love for that character to have a prominent role in the Mandoverse.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a perfect kind of place for him. If Warwick Davis wasn't already in Star Wars, he's the kind of if he had just been in Willow and other things, Jon Favreau would cast him in Mando. He's the kind of beloved character actor that you'd cast anyway.
Yeah.
Why not catch up with Weasel? He can still be alive.
Yeah.
And see, like, where is he now? Did he fought for the rebellion and won?
Yeah.
Where's he at now? I would love to see Weasel in Mandoverse. So hashtag Weasel Watch.
Weasel Watch indeed. And for years we've talked about that, especially early on in the Disney era, the phenomenon of right around that tree on Endor was a character hiding, which the character of Singer, a character we absolutely love here that's been around for 10 years. I would love if Weasel was around the corner from Wicket in the Battle of Endor. Great. Hey, look, I think we could openly campaign to the man in the cowboy hat. Filoni brought him in, to Rebels. He's on his mind. Filoni knows the lore. You know how many times probably at a bar in Burbank, Filoni was like, well, he was 11 when George put him in. He knows. Dave, we're looking at you because I'm with you, Joseph. He has so many wonderful roles, but I'd love to. Weasel is a perfect character to have him actually sit down and have a scene, have a meaty scene, some dialogue. In the clips that they showed on the tribute, a lot from all the other franchises and stuff he's been in, but there was one scene where he was like kind of doing a mobster kind of thing. And it was being played for comedy, but I was like, I'd love more of that. Just him really getting a meaty role. So Weasel it is. There it is. Well, we're going to go to our other story here today, and this was this was fun. We approach with a light heart here on this one here, but the coverage of this was a little too serious. Should Boba Fett have killed Mace Windu? It's a question that is, deserves a fair answer. Daniel Logan talked about that being the plan. Daniel Logan, of course, young Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones and the Clone Wars series and the Book of Boba Fett in a way. Daniel Logan was at GalaxyCon Richmond and spoke about the original plans, or I'll say some of, or possibly the original plans for the death of Mace Windu. Mace's killer was going to be Boba Fett, the young Boba Fett actor, explained that he was held for Revenge of the Sith, meaning they kind of said, keep your schedule open, and the possibility of returning to get revenge on Mace for his fallen father, Jango. He said this: Mace was going to come at Boba like he did with Jango, but because Boba had already experienced beforehand what had happened, I hit the jetpacks. I fly upside down or on my back. As I'm flying on my back with the jetpacks along the ground, I pull out Jango's blasters and I shoot him right between the stomach. And that's how Mace WIndu was meant to die. I was sitting there at Lucasfilm, and he makes excited noises, and they're like, okay, we're holding you for a year. And I was like, okay. I kept calling. Is it my turn yet? Is it my turn? Of course, it didn't happen. Logan mentioned that a storyboard existed for this, and that had previously been out in the world via an old issue of Star Wars Insider 85, as well as the making of the Revenge of the Sith book. He said some more wonderful things in the panel before we talk about it. There's no shade. I'm not even going to worry about the outlets, but a lot of people reported a lot of his words as very serious. Star Wars actor claims George Lucas ruined his career by cutting. I'm sure GalaxyCon Richmond is not the sit-down Tom Snyder late show deep interview spot. He's having fun. He's joking. He was basically like, yeah, if you're going to ruin my career, Sam Jackson, go ahead and put me in the MCU. So it was funny just to see how it was reported there. But anyways, first reactions. Are we buying or selling this idea of Boba Fett getting revenge on Mace, Joseph? Where we go?
I take issue with the phrasing of the original plan. I haven't read the Making of Revenge of the Sith book or Star Wars Insider number 85, so it sounds like this is probably known. But from what we do know about George Lucas and all the documentaries, is there's a huge difference between the original plan versus one of the many story thread possibilities explored. Yeah. And I got no problem whatsoever with Daniel Logan. He's immensely talented and immensely charming. I have no problem with him talking about this. This is a great convention story. Yeah. I have a problem with the people who want to latch onto it and go, this is the way it was supposed to be, or those kind of manipulative TikToks or stories that say, look what was taken from us. Like every creator who's ever created a thing has one idea where there are three possibilities, and go like, which one are we going to do? And it is well known, I think, for the prequels from multiple quotes from George Lucas of he had more ideas and more threads than he had time to explore. I have no doubt that he wanted to finish this through line of like, I introduced young Boba Fett. I wanted to show how he wasn't born a killer. He had a kind of loving father, even though his father was not the greatest guy. He saw him cut down by a Jedi, and that created a cycle of violence. And yeah, he wanted to show that story, just like he wanted to have 7 battles on 7 worlds at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith and show the Clone Wars. So I have no doubt that this was all like, yeah, he would have loved to tell that Boba Fett story. Storyboarded it. Had Daniel Logan on hold. Too many stories. So he made the one that made more sense to keep everything centered on Anakin.
I'm with you on all that there. And it's even now in 2025 when you get those reports of this was going to happen. Like, sure, yeah. There's a lot of things that were going to happen in the world of George Lucas, and I mean that in a good way. I think it's great that he has all these ideas, and he clearly. And I'll get your answer here, Jen, before I register my official answer and buy or sell. But George clearly had a lot in mind for Boba Fett, as we see in the Clone Wars series. So I love that about George there. But Jen, buy or sell this idea on Boba Fett getting revenge?
I mean, it's a fun idea. And I think, the character of Boba Fett in the Clone Wars is great. But I think on screen, it would have been a little silly. And the thing that I think sucks, and the reason why he remembers this so vividly, is because he was put on hold for a whole freaking year. That, like, as an actor, when I would get put on hold for a commercial for a week, it was excruciating, let alone if I was in the biggest movie franchise of all time and being held for a year. Being held means that you can't work, in theory. Like, you can't take any work for a whole year. That stinks. So I can see why he's like joking. He's joking around with this, but boy, that must have been really tough and disappointing as a young person. It'd be disappointing as an adult. So, obviously, it was a real thought.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like scribbled down in a notebook. Like, it was seriously considered, perhaps.
Yeah.
And it maybe wasn't the greatest for his career because from experience, having literally dealt with this, that means that Lucasfilm was in first position. So if like a smaller indie director came to him and was like, "You're so great in Attack the Clones, we'd like to hire you," and like, cool, the first thing you have to do is talk to Lucasfilm and see if we can have you for those 2 months out of that year. And I think a lot of people are like, no, I don't. I can't compete with Lucasfilm, so no, I'm not even going to make that call.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And I straight up sell the idea of what could have been on screen. I love, again, we'll talk about more about Mace, but I love the idea of Boba Fett continuing, because it did. The story continued in George's mind and was powerful enough to get it onto screen with the Clone Wars. But yeah, this, as described, is one of those like, oh, cool. There's absolutely no thematic relevance to the main story that we see in Revenge of the Sith with this. So I'm glad it happened the way it played out. And that's the next question, is what do we like about how it played out with the return of young Boba in the Clone Wars, which was tied early on to Mace as well, Joseph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that animated Clone Wars gave us a little bit more time, not only with the character of Boba Fett, but put the spotlight on Mace's choice to kill Jango and the repercussions of that, and got to do a little kind of compare and contrast with Anakin, with having Anakin caught up in young Boba's vengeance attempt, and having Mace and Anakin trapped together. So in a way, it feels like, well, here's how you would want to handle that thread of vengeance, is in a way that echoes out and affects not just Boba, not just Mace, but Anakin. And, I wonder if that is what Lucas was trying to make work within the larger story of Revenge of the Sith, but had the elbow room because it's a story that is focused on young Boba, that lets that decision echo out to lots of different characters and lots of different ideas.
And as time goes on, I appreciate the use of Boba Fett in the Clone Wars more and more. I think it was a fun little tidbit or curiosity early on when the series was first on for me, but even going back and deeper on the Clone Wars report here at ForceCenter, check out those old episodes if you'd like. It just popped for me, and without trying to be, too much of just a jerk, but I've run into those Book of Boba Fett wasn't my Boba Fett types of conversations and people, which are fine, and we all engage and interact with things differently. And if Boba Fett was your favorite character because he was the stoic, armored, faceless killer, got it. But I from 2002 on, George had other thoughts of what he could be, and to explore it more in the Clone Wars is something I just absolutely value. But Jen, I don't know if you've taken the deep dives. To be fair, I don't know. But your thoughts on how it played out?
Yeah, I don't know if I have taken the deep dive, or if I have, it's been so long, I've forgotten. The thing about the Clone Wars with Boba Fett was it gave the character more dimension, and it's actually one of the reasons why I think the Book of Boba Fett works so well for me. Is like I had already seen part of his childhood, what his life was like without his father, and so it just was kind of carrying the story along. You know what would have been really cool if Mace Windu had not died in Revenge of the Sith. And actually, Book of Boba Fett was a movie, and Mace Windu was there, and Boba Fett killed him there. Now that would have been cool, right? That would have been cool.
Yes, but I'm listening to how you're going to pull this out. So
there's the canon be gone.
Cannon be gone. That's a spray you can get.
Cannon be gone. This is Gen Cannon, JC.
Does that rank?
My own rules here,
and that ranks higher than Detour's canon?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I think there's an alternate history Gen canon where Mace can either be tied to Boba Fett's vengeance, or he can be tied to Anakin's fateful choice in that room. But where it gets messy for me is it's when he's both. Like, I think if they had a different Jedi kill Jango, then you could focus on the revenge. If they'd had a different Jedi break in Palpatine's throne room and go, he just needs to be killed in front of Anakin. But like, Mace has too many mistakes, so he's got too many pivotal places to be in the legitimate Star Wars canon. He's freed up in the Gen canon.
In
which Cold Trebor lives. and he's the one who almost kills Palpatine in the office.
I was gonna say a Coleman Trevor would be a great, gets shot off the
Trevor,
balcony, but then lands on his feet and then kills Jango. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's Gen Canon. I like it. I like it.
I we'll talk a little bit about Mace here, but I do like, Joseph, that you've set up the Mace murder mystery series where there's a lot of suspects. It's who shot Mr. Burns. It's just Mace pissed off a lot of people along the way.
Yep. Pivotal.
Daniel Logan, as I hinted, he did went on to joke. I'm saying joke. It was there was a lot of sincerity behind some of the coverage of this convention. He went on to joke that Samuel L. Jackson was the reason Bubba didn't get his revenge, saying Samuel L. Jackson went into George Lucas's office and he says, I don't think this young kid should have the power to be able to kill someone who sits on the Jedi Council. Plus, I don't want to be killed by no punk kid. I happen to be that punk kid. I'd love sources on this. I'd love audio recordings. I'd love. I believe in my heart this could have happened, but I don't know. Again, whether completely true or not, Samuel L. Jackson is always ready to jump back into the role of Mace, and the question of a possible Mace return comes up a lot, and it comes up a lot in Gen Canon chat forums. So looking ahead. There's a lot of ways now. I think that this could happen. I personally think he's dead. But what are some of the ways we might want Sam Jackson back as Mace in the future, Jen? They just put out a Mace novel, canon novel. He's got some great stuff in the comics. Living Force, he's there. But going forward, what's some of the ways you want Sam Jackson to show up?
How do you bring him back? Like, without Gen Canon, you can't. It's like
vote
unless
for
you do a
Gen Canon.
unless you do a flashback. But then I don't know. I know that we all would love to see it, but realistically, I don't know. Joseph, how would this be possible? How?
Yeah, I want him to be deceased for sure.
Okay.
For Mace Windu, I want Samuel L. Jackson to come back, and I think there are ways to play him. But we've had this discussion before, and there's some people who are like, "That's what we need—a Mace Windu movie. He could have survived that." It's not about could he have survived. Yeah, of course he could have survived. It's Star Wars. But I just think it's too powerful of a moment. That is the choice Anakin makes. That to side with the dark side. And it is the failure of the Jedi Order. And there's a finality to it that I want the character of Mace Windu to have died in Revenge of the Sith. But I think I would love for Samuel L. Jackson to voice Mace Windu in an animated film for Disney Plus, because I think an animated one-off adventure. I think it would be cool to have somebody discover a holocron with a message from Mace Windu and get Samuel L. Jackson back to play that. This is the one that I think is actually possible. I'm not putting any money on it, but I think that, Ahsoka is heading into Mortis in season 2 of Ahsoka, or a world between world like space, or meditating more and reaching more mystical planes. Perhaps the real Mace Windu, perhaps a vision of Mace Windu. A little bit of de-aging, just a little bit, because that man is aging well. I would love to see him back in the role, and for me, it would be more interesting to have him play maybe the real spirit of Mace Windu, but also kind of one of those roles where it doesn't matter. Is this Ahsoka's vision of him, or is this the real sentient being? He means something in the Jedi Order. His failures are significant in Ahsoka wrestling with that, especially. Or maybe even Balin. Maybe it's a conversation between Balin and Mace, who probably knew each other well. That's probably my biggest hope of seeing him.
Good.
Yeah, look, it seems like every other week there's a rumor or scoop of someone coming back to go to Ahsoka season 2 and a Clone Wars flashback thing. And by the way, I quite frankly hope all the rumors are true and all that kind of stuff. I think it's fun, and I don't want the entire series to be a de-aged flashback. There's examples of de-aging used in things that I love and some that I don't love. But I think it'd be a win with Sam Jackson. And this is just a general swing through the story of Mace, but it kind of what you're talking, Joseph, cements feelings in my heart that Mace, a character I do love, by the way, because I do love having Sam Jackson in Star Wars, is kind of the poster child for the failures of the Order in a lot of ways, and takes it on the chin because of that. And that's in a general sweeping sense, and I don't want to go through every beat with Mace right now, but there is kind of that's what you get overall vibe for me. So that's why I do want to keep him dead. But if you can deal with that, and Anakin has skid in that game, Ahsoka has skid in that game, thinking some of their interactions, particularly in Clone Wars Season 7, if you're going to do any kind of flashbacks that are, I don't even mean flashbacks, but just taking the story and going back there in that era and time, and we're going to get Ewan in armor and all that kind of thing, why not have a really tense moment that we didn't get to see before with Mace and Ahsoka, or Mace and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and something like that? It'd be fun, it'd be possible, and honor the story that was told in Revenge of the Sith without changing too much of it there, which I do believe a returning Mace would devalue a little bit of the choices made in Revenge of the Sith. So there we go. But no scoops, no rumors yet to confirm any of that. But we'll check in with Jen Cannon, Jen. Could you just pitch Jen Cannon episodes 10, 11, and 12 series? Write it all down.
Man.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. I was going to close this here with this little question, but I think we've. Well, actually, yeah. Okay, what do we like about Mace, Joseph? What do we like about Mace?
We don't need to talk about liking Mace.
We've said some harsh things, but I think he's great.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's a complex character. I think there's complexity under the surface in the actual prequel films, but beautifully expanded in the Clone Wars animated series and in all sorts of novelizations. Haven't been able to read the most recent one, Glass Abyss. I don't have the Legends one. I have a copy of the Legends one, Shatterpoint, that people love, that I would love to read, but also the Gennady Tartakovsky. All sorts of. I think that he's this fascinating Jedi in that he is so rigid, and that is some of his faults. But he's also the one of like, look, we have rules, and the general rule is, 2 verbal warnings, take your hand, then I take your head. And that's, and I'm going to do that. And I like that sort of that certainty in that forward movement. It gives him like such great energy. But then we see in the Clone Wars that there is all that emotional detachment is not good. That rigidity in that controlling nature is masking fear. There's some great moments toward the end of the Clone Wars when he's more concerned about the politics of how the Jedi Council's choice might be spun by the government, by the people, and he does the wrong thing out of fear. Yeah, and I think he's a really a fascinating portrait of an extremely competent, no nonsense, get it done person, and all of those traits are masking that control is masking a fear of loss of control, and I think that's even present in his choice to kill Palpatine. He's probably right that the courts are probably gonna be manipulated into letting him go, but is he giving in to fear to just say, got to kill him right now, or would a little bit of hope, a little bit less fear have made that moment play out different? Would it have played out different if he hadn't been so controlling to say Anakin can't come with? I don't think there are easy answers to these questions. I think that's the complexity of the character, which is what I love about him.
I value that greatly. I'm right there with you on it. I look across at a character like Saw Gerrera. I say how much I love Saw, and a lot of what I love about Saw is the questions he raises and the bad answers he sometimes provides. It's been just fascinating to have that character in Star Wars, and Mace for me now has that. Look, there was a point in time, 99, 2002, all that stuff, where one of my favorite actors from the mid-90s was in Star Wars, and I was waiting for him to drop some words that aren't said in Star Wars. Like this was that era, and that started my love of just Mace in Star Wars, and I think he's a great Jedi just in terms of design, the famous blade color situation, everything. All that's good, but I over the years have become a fan of him in a different way, kind of what you're talking about. I've said in the past, and again, it's a general sweep to the conversation, where Mace often seems to be right about the situation. He has a read on it that you're like, oh, you got a point, but then every time he reacts maybe in the less less correct sort of way. And that's part of what his legacy is, a complicated legacy where you're like often like, maybe Mace has got a point. Oh, but nah, don't do that. Don't do that, Mace. Don't do that. Don't do that. And look, going back to Phantom Menace, I appreciate he and Jake Lloyd's the animus between them is some of my favorite parts of Star Wars. So, Jen, what do you like about Mace?
Yeah, I do love the fact that he is very much, like you said, Joseph, no nonsense, right? Like he is direct. He's tough. I would not want him as my master. I think
No.
he'd be really hard on me. But I know I'd be better because of it, right? But yeah, it was hard because I love Samuel Jackson, and to see him have kind of these missteps as a Jedi, I was like, no, you're not supposed. No, I don't want you to do that. But that's why the Clone Wars kind of gave the character a little bit more nuance,
Yeah.
which I appreciated.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I want my Gen canon, so I can get more of that on screen with Sam Jackson. That'd be really fun.
More of him and Jar Jar.
Oh,
That ended up becoming one of my favorite arcs to discuss here on ForceCenter. It's really fun, really fun.
What if there was a Mace Windu story where, people always want films where like Billy D. Williams narrates the adventures of young
Yes.
Lando. What if it was Mace Windu falling through the sky, thinking back on his life as he falls to his death in Revenge of the Sith?
That's a go picture. That's 100%. And you got to start it with the freeze frame. You're probably wondering how I got here.
Right. Yeah.
A Gen Canon production presents. Look at Mace Windu. Well, love it. So hey, and another thing too, I love having Daniel Logan around Star Wars as well. He's just seems like a fun vibes kind of guy. Great father. Love his stuff in the Book of Boba Fett kind of little doc they had about the character Boba Fett leading up to the launch of the series. And we talked about ambassadors to Star Wars. I think he's one who's done a good job celebrating this franchise. So. Thank you for that story, Daniel Logan. And thank you, Mace Windu, for all your mistakes that we get to learn from. All right. That is it for this week. That's a look at Star Wars news, fun discussions about characters and actors and performance we love in Star Wars. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod, like Joseph said up top. We definitely promote our shows across a lot of different platforms. I think for interaction, Blue Sky is the best place to reach out at ForceCenter Pod. Facebook page, if you want, there is ForceCenter Podcast. As a podcast, we are available in a lot of spots. Just search. You'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. You can get the Speculate Responsible t-shirt that I pulled out of the old backside of the closet this morning. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. From there, you can get into our Discord and have a fun discussion with Star Wars fans and friends. Find me at Cadnapsock or go to my website, cadnapsock.com, for more. My shop's still up, not just for copies of my book, but I still got some Star Wars toys. Congratulations to Mike, who did a big purchase on Han and a Tauntaun, Luke and a Wampa. It's going to a good home, and I couldn't be more excited for that. Check out that at cadnapsock.com. Jen, where can they find and follow you?
That's awesome. You can find me on Blue Sky at Jennifer Landa, Instagram, same name, and TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go, Joseph. I'm going to see you Friday. Jen, of course, you're busy on Friday for the live stream. We'll send our regards to you. But Joseph will see you Friday for the big live stream, charity stream. But where can they find you in the meantime?
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky. I'm having lots of fun there. You can also check out my website, josephscrimshaw.com, which has links to all the film stuff I'm doing, and my blog, Finish Your Monsters.
There you go. We'll see you next time, my friends, here on ForceCenter.